Hi, I'm Andrew Wallace, and welcome to the We've Got a Problem podcast, where each week we explore inspiring stories of struggle, success, and solutions to prevalent problems and how our guests have turned a problem into an opportunity. This week I'm joined by Clarissa Burt, who's written The Self-Esteem Regime. Her book is the perfect tool for quickly reassessing and regaining the confidence we may have lost during the last few years. And it offers case studies, affirmations, clarion calls, and exercises to find oneself again and forge a path back to empowering and enlightening self-confidence. Something I especially need right now. Clarissa, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andrew. That's so great. What a great job you did writing that. That was so great. I'm gonna have to steal that from you.
You're more than welcome to. I think I stole it from you.
Okay.
So, I mean, self-esteem is one of those things that people have talked about so much off and on over the years, and I think it gets short shrift because people go as if it's some sort of woo-woo, just everybody should feel great about themselves all the time, and that's not what it is at all, is it?
Not at all. I mean, there are so many different facets of self-esteem, what it is, what it's not. I think some people would even agree that it's an old, 1960s thing that was kind of bantered about. It's been around forever, self-esteem or the lack thereof.
Right.
We're always in, how should I term this? In some way, shape, or form, as much as life is great, sometimes it's not. And when it's not, these are the times when we have to take a deeper look at really what's going on. And we do that because we want to be the best, iteration of ourselves. We want to have a phenomenal relationship with ourselves, a great relationship with everyone else around us. And if you don't have your self-esteem intact by the time your feet hit the ground in the morning, I challenge that we're going to have difficulties somewhere along the way. Obviously, these last 2 COVID years have been very, very difficult in that there's been a lot of loss. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't everyone, and certainly for me, it was a time, like for many, where great, no more bright shining objects. I can't be rushing off to the latest, networking event or traveling. I got to stay home, which meant that I could hone in and really, get a lot of work done. And one of those things was this book. But for the most part, the loss that I'm talking about is loss of family, loss of friends, loss of faith, loss of self, loss of our individuality, loss of money, loss of jobs, loss of friends, just loss. This feeling of doom and gloom. And what I offer is, a book not only that a course I call the Self-Esteem Regime. A regime being an organized way of doing things. But this is an action plan for becoming the confident person you were meant to be at any time of your life.
Right. And that's, again, the confidence is the big key there. Right. The confidence in yourself, because that's people look at so many things and they go, we need to strike down this idea that everybody should feel great about everything that they do, and realize that it's the confidence in your ability to figure things out that is so crucial, right? That not to say, I know everything and I'm the greatest person in the world, but I can figure this out. I can do this. I can push forward. Yeah,
you can. You absolutely can. I think that this book, as I was saying, is really hit at a great time. Yeah. It's hit at a really good time because we're coming a little bit on the heels, if you will, of the Me Too movement. Then we kind of went into COVID, and now it's all these different movements where especially women, and again, the book is written for all. In fact, the cover of my book is blue to attract more of a male eye than a female eye. But it's self-esteem is one of those kinds of things that, again, you never take a test and get 100 on. Life is going to ebb and flow around you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, does anybody ever have perfect self-esteem?
Yeah. No, I would proffer no, nobody ever has perfect self-esteem. You can certainly read a book like mine or many others that you can find in the personal growth section. And if you haven't, I urge that you do. And this is only because, again, I think a lot of us want to understand what is going wrong and, more importantly, why it's going wrong. Yes. What I think we forget is that we've been indoctrinated by many different things and people, groups, and associations along the way, whether it be the natal tribe, whether it be our faith, whether it be our peers, whether it be the media, now with social media. We've got a 44% depression rate and a rising suicide rate in this country that is alarming. And this is mostly between, and CDC came out with this a couple of weeks ago, it's within our high school and our college age kids. And so these, they're finding that, a lot of these children or kids, and we'll call them that, children, I'm old, but you know what I mean, is that they're finding that that's just an easier way out, is to off themselves, commit suicide, or as they say today, unalive themselves. And so a 44% rate to me, Andrew, is very alarming.
Yeah, that's a crisis. That's crisis level proportions.
This is where I say, if we were to be, first of all, I would lobby that this kind of teaching, the teaching that is in this book, it would be so great if we could do this in schools and just kind of have this as, Self-Esteem 101. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think we should be teaching more about finances as well. Instead of some of the things that we are teaching our children, we need to be really focusing on what the true life skills are that we're going to need when we are out finally on our own. Nobody teaches us about relationships, no. Andrew. What we learn from relationships is what we saw our parents do.
Right. Well, and the thing with self-esteem and any of that kind of self-learning, those basic skills, is that it translates to so many other facets of your life. Like you say, relationships. If you don't have self-esteem, you can't set healthy boundaries in a relationship.
Yeah.
You can't be effective to anybody else if you're always trying to get everything, all your validation from somebody else, your confidence, your beliefs, all that stuff.
Right. Well, your confidence, basically, if you break down the word, it's with trust. So fidence, or it comes from, and I speak Italian, sorry, it's fiducia, and then it goes back to a Latin root, but it means trust in yourself. Self-confidence. I trust in myself. Your identity. A lot of people have identity crises. The feeling of belonging. We all want to belong. We want to feel like we belong. And then the feeling of competence. These are kind of four components that define self-esteem, and how you feel about yourself. There are also different kinds of self-esteem we won't get into today, but some are, there could be an inflated self-esteem, and that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about narcissism. We're not talking about those that really feel great about themselves, because we might be talking about narcissism, and that's not what we talk about here.
Right.
But what I do want to talk about is why it is so important that we are feeling good about ourselves. And you touched upon it just now. And that is because it touches the way you perceive yourself, the way you feel about yourself is absolutely determining everything you do, you are, how you dress, the car you drive. All of that is all about how you're feeling about yourself. A lot of people buy their self-esteem. They buy it.
Yes, they do. And hey, it's an interesting and creative way to try to get self-esteem, to purchase it. It's like, we do that with everything else. Why not pull out the credit card and try and do it? Yeah,
exactly. And then we have the imposter syndrome. That's the new catchphrase now. Is the imposter syndrome is obviously feeling like everyone else's perception of you is that you are you got your proverbial stuff together when you walk around feeling all the time like you really don't have your stuff together, and that you're kind of faking it. And so we've got that, and a lot of people, it really creates a lot of anxiety for people as well. So there's that. I think it's just important to know that nobody is born perfect, and that you learn and you're indoctrinated as you go. And what is important is finding out the first chapter of my book is release, and we have 12 chapters. Each one starts with a re-word, and the releasing part is just gigantic. It's releasing a lot of the stuff you were taught along the way. What was it that isn't serving you? It doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter how you acquired the information. It's what is it that just doesn't resonate with you and your truth. And that's where really good, happy, healthy self-esteem starts. The problem with some of that, and I'm going to say problem very lightly, is that you're going to probably get some people's noses out of joint. Some people are going to be offended. They're going to be triggered. They're going to be hurt. And gee, Mom, I love you, and I promise I'll be home for Christmas. But, I'll be home for Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm going to love you, Mom, where you're at. But, a lot of the things that I may have learned here are not necessary. You don't have to go back and say all these things, right? But that some of the things you learned at home may not be serving you. or in your, educative, processes along the way, your courses, your classes, your professors, your peers, your faith may not, you might have been brought up in a certain faith that I'm not saying, to completely destroy your life and, rip it all apart. I'm saying, where is it that you need to rebuild? Where is it that you feel that you're not living in integrity with yourself, which is an amazing word, integrity.
Yes, it is. Integrity is so crucial. It's so crucial.
So crucial.
And it's missing.
It's my big one. It's my big one is integrity, is living in integrity. When you can look at yourself in the mirror, and by the way, we have mirror work in here, so which we'll get to in a second. But if you can look at yourself in the mirror and be feeling pretty good about yourself, because you knew you made the right decision, even though it would have been easier not to.
Yeah.
That's integrity, and that's where the rubber hits the road, I think, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, that's again, as you're speaking, it strikes me of how important this kind of work is now. And that's one of the questions. Why now? We've answered that. We need it. We desperately need it.
Yes, we do.
The other part of it for me is how, and I've focused on this a little bit on the show in the past with other guests, but how second-handed some of our belief systems are, how much we've gotten from other people, and how false some of those beliefs might be.
Yeah.
And
social media is a great example of that. Now, 90% of it is perception. The guy running around the Lamborghini and standing in front of the mansion, a lot of people don't realize this, most of it is rented.
Yes.
Which is fine. It's okay. But I just want, especially our girls and all the filters that are being used, to understand that, man, you think you have to be like everyone else and look like everyone else to be accepted. And what the coolest thing you're going to find, it may take another couple of years yet, is that you get to be you. You are so lucky that you get to be you. And a lot of the girls that back in the day were the real popular girls and the jumping all over the place and doing all the fun things, are some of the girls who are going to be looking up to you. Later in life. And it's funny how that happens. And by the way, everyone is on their own path and trajectory, and I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm just here to say Self-Esteem 101 is never, ever, ever compare yourself to anyone. Never compare yourself to anyone.
Right. Well, I had two experiences recently, one of which was I went to my 20th high school reunion over the weekend, right? So I was just there. It's fresh in my mind. And it's such an invitation to compare yourself to other people now. And of course, also you're comparing yourself to other people in the past and what they were like back then. And you realize so much of what we focused on in high school when we were just is total hogwash. I mean, it's junk. You go, what? That didn't matter at all.
It's how we looked.
Yeah, it was all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And who was dating who, and who got the popular girl, and who got the really cute, who got the varsity team guy, and all of it. Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and the other thing was I watched the documentary on Netflix about the rise and fall of Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, it's fantastic in a way, because they talk about what Abercrombie was selling. In the 90s and the early 2000s, they were selling exclusivity, exclusion. They wanted a very particular image, and how that got them in trouble later with anti-diversity, how they were putting people who were non-white people in the back room, in the stock room. You don't look good enough to be on the floor. They were doing those kinds of things and really getting themselves into trouble.
Yeah.
But what they sold, what they got teens to buy into, was this aspirational view of being the cool kids. Like, I want to be like that. I'm going to dress like that. I'm going to wear those clothes. And yet again, it's all external validation.
Yes, external validation. And it's so funny because, I've heard this said before, and that is, it's self-esteem. Self-esteem.
Holding yourself in high regard.
Not your esteem of me, it's my esteem of me. And yeah, all the accolades are great. Don't get me wrong. We love it. When we get a nice compliment, it feels really great. But I will tell you that if you are ready to lead with what everyone else thinks about you, you need this book more than you think you do. So just, don't do that. Just don't do that.
Don't do that. I mean, it's easier said than done, right?
It is.
This is why we need a book to tell us how to do it.
And I will tell you that the book is an easy read, but the work that you'll do in the book is not at all.
How long does it take? How long do you think it takes for somebody to really digest and work through this book? Yeah, reading it is one thing, but actually working with it.
I think that's an individual, an individual choice, how long it takes to read. You can read it now. And my book is much like other books where you'll read it today and get something really great information out of it. And then you'll read it again in 6 months' time and a message will land upon you. You will ingest something that you didn't see the first time around. You just wasn't, I don't remember reading that the first time. Was that there? Because you weren't ready for that message yet, right? So that, that's kind of the way I see this book is, my book is a manual. This is a mission for me, and it's a movement. This is something that I feel extremely passionate about. We heard, a Courtney, love or hate these people. That's not the Courtney Kardashian 10 days ago came out with, I get a really heavy anxiety and my self-esteem gets really low because I don't have a problem going on your show, James Corden. It's what they're going to say about me afterwards. Or Camila Cabello, 41 million, followers on Instagram, is a Latin singer, very famous. And she's all, up in her head and very anxious about the fact that the paparazzi are following her on the beach. And should she have a little bit of a pooch after eating lunch, that picture will go out and she's going to feel uncomfortable. Who else?
This is why we all want to be these people, right?
Jennifer Lopez 2 days ago came out and said I really fell into a part of my life where I had extreme low self-esteem because I didn't win. I think it was the Oscar for Hustler. Madonna has said the same thing. These are people, and that millions look up to. We have for many, many years, and notwithstanding the money, the beauty, the fame, and everything else, they are just like you and me when it comes to feeling, happy, healthy self-esteem, or the lack of it.
Right.
Here's what I do offer, and that is that, life is always going to trigger us, no matter what. It's just one of those things, life, isn't it? It's going to ebb and flow, and that storm is going to come by sooner or later, and it's going to be a doozy. Now, in that storm, you may lose a leaf, you might even lose a limb. But if you are standing strong in your stead, if you know who you are, if you're doing the work, you will not be uprooted and taken away.
Right. You've put down stronger roots, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you talk about the importance of support groups as well in the book.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about who they are, what they do?
Yeah, I can, absolutely. Well, as you well know, there are people that come into our lives for a reason, some for a season, and some for a lifetime. The importance of creating relationships along the way, because we're born into families that we didn't choose, and that they might not be the greatest support system for us. What we do need to do is find those 3, 4, maybe 5 people, if you're lucky, in your lifetime that you are going to connect with, that you are going to support, and they are going to do the same for you. And these people are not the easiest people to find, but you'll know them when you find them. And I think that's kind of one of the the really great things about having a relationship like that, and looking, or having that. Sometimes you'll just stumble upon you. It'll be some some serendipitous kind of event or occasion where you'll find somebody that becomes a really great friend. And these are the kind of people that that you call. Who are the people? And you count them right now on one hand. How many people would you call at 3 o'clock in the morning, Andrew, and they'd be there for you? How many?
Yeah, it's probably 2.
Yeah, probably 2. And I think most of us answer probably 2, 3 if you're lucky. But those are your ride or dies. Those are the people that you want to find, and those are the people that you want to care for and nurture to make sure they are in your life for a lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we all have those people, at least one of them, because going from 1 to 2 is a little easier once you have that one, but going from 0 to 1.
0 to 1 is tough, yeah, and that's and therein again lies the why I think it's so important that you have these kind of relationships. Let me offer one other thought, which I really love and I love to impart, because I think it hits home when you hear it, and that is loyalty is when you have someone's back behind their back.
Yes.
Loyalty is when someone has your back behind your back. And I think that this is another major part of self-esteem. Are you one of the group that in the group that's gossiping? And if someone is gossiping, if you're there about someone that you truly care about, are you going to be man or woman enough? Are you going to be a man of honor and a woman of honor and make it right? Are you going to And by the way, none of this everything is done with ease, joy, and glory. And that is to say, wait a minute, hold up, everybody. I know Susie Q really well. And I gotta say, she's one amazing human being. I mean, whatever the case may be, are you going to be of honor enough to be able to step? That, I tell you right there, is whether and this should, and by the way, my last chapter is reciprocal. So the reciprocality of, having that kind of relationship where you're going to defend someone and someone else may defend you, again, with ease, joy, and glory. Right. We don't raise their voices. There's no violence here. Just like there's no raising voices and violence when we're creating boundaries, which is another super self-esteem practice. Right. What will you and what will you not accept? You weren't born to be anybody's doorstep. That's not the way it works. Doormat. Forgive me, doorstep. Right. Doormat. And that's not the way it works. We all are deserving of love. We are all deserving of a happy home. We are all deserving of living without having to live in fear.
Yeah. Well, I am a fan of all those Mr. Rogers quotes that were coming out a couple of years ago when the Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood movie was coming out. And everybody was posting quotes from Fred Rogers, and people misunderstood a lot of what he said that he'd somehow created a generation of the me generation, the whole millennial thing.
I don't know if it was more Gen X, if I remember correctly. I mean, I was too old. I'm a baby boomer, so I was too old to really be watching. But you have to remember that baby boomers were brought up by the greatest generation. So we came from post-war, the post-war generation where they had nothing. So the idea that their children could have something was very important to the greatest generation, and therefore we felt, very strong in we were taught work ethic, and we were taught, to really appreciate all the things we had. There was very little in the way of feel good. We were glad to be out of the war, but a lot of the warm and fuzzy stuff didn't come along until later. And I think that there's nothing wrong with warm and fuzzy. I think that's a great place to be. I also think that it's important to live in reality, and that is where, come back to present day, where reality, and we can see, especially in these last 2 years, if not just in the last year, 6 months, what reality truly is. And that and that is that nothing is forever, nothing is certain. We're all going through some very unstable times. And if you are feeling a sense of loss of anything at all, or even feeling unstable, these are the kinds of books you want to be reading. You want to be reading stuff that's really fortifying all the good. We're getting enough bad, but we cannot continue to ingest bad without counterbalancing that with good.
Yes.
So get your hands on some. I don't care. Stop watching the news. Stop watching, negative movies. Get your head out of war movies. Start watching, rom-coms. I don't care what you have to do. But you need to be laughing. We need to be having more human interaction and communication and contact. Yep. I'm all about hugging. Just keep hugging people everywhere you go. If you have to wear a mask, great. But I'm just saying we're in a place where we're losing ourselves. Yeah. So let's make sure that we do everything. It's a critical time. And, desperate times call for desperate measures. I think that was this, the sense of that quote. And I'm not saying we're desperate, but I am saying it's a time where we really need to be working on ourselves, because the better we are, look, we raise a collective consciousness, to sound a little woo-woo, but the better we are, the better experience we're creating for ourselves, the better those will feel that are around us, and hopefully will do the same.
Yeah. Well, that's the part of the thing for me when a lot of this is we all spend a bunch of time at home, isolated from the people that helped support us, right? We were isolated from our support system.
Right.
And there are moments in everybody's life, I'm sure, certainly in mine, that you have darker moments when you're not feeling as great about what you're doing. And we got stuck at home watching all these things on the internet, on TV, of people living these fantastic lives that we then couldn't even participate in by proxy we just had to sit there and go, well, I don't have that. I'm not this. I'm not that.
Right.
Where am I in my life? What am I doing? And we had the time to just marinate and ruminate and just
ruminate. Ruminate is a great word. Yes.
Go down these dark holes.
Yeah.
And which is, of course, bad in all sorts of ways.
Right.
But to come at it from, again, circle back to that Fred Rogers quote, like we were saying, it's believing that that you are deserving of what other people have, love, those kinds of things. To be
loved, to be respected, to be, honored, if you will. I mean, there's so many different things, again, boundaries that we should be creating, because, knowing what you will and will not accept, it's not okay to live in a toxic relationship. I also collaborate as a spokesperson for domesticshelters.org here in the U.S., and there are some also in Canada. I think they're up to 3,500 shelters now. And there was a huge uptick in domestic violence because now the abuser was at home during COVID. So COVID was really a very, very, not only was it making people sick physically, but I think it really did lend itself to mental illness as well. When I say depression, when I say anxiety, when I talked before about we as adults were going down the rabbit hole. I mean, we were really having difficulties, psychologically. For some of us, it was difficult, right? Can you imagine your high school kids who don't have the tools, who don't have the resources, who really are still trying to find themselves in this crazy ass world we're living in now? I hope I could say that word. Sorry.
You can. You're more than welcome
to. But I mean, in this world where there is very little in the way of certainty, let me tell you, you can find it not only in my book, but you can find it in yourself. And so that's what we talk about in the book. There's a lot of exercises in here. If you do the work, and I really urge you to do the work, continue to do the work on yourself. There's a plethora of information on YouTube. You can just, watch some really great information, listen to great information, have uplifting podcasts, that you're listening to whenever you can, no matter where you are. There's a counterbalance. If not, I would say get 90% of the good stuff in. And if you have to listen to the 10% because you want to know what's going on in the world, great, go do that. And I'm not saying this is not about putting your head in the ground either. You have got to keep yourself afloat.
Balance is the key, because you can't be in the ocean.
That's right. Without the life raft. Right. Absolutely. You cannot continue to take in, listen to, and ingest all the bad stuff, because that'll take you down. It's like living without light.
Yeah.
I see people live in kind of darkish houses, and I walk in and I go, oh my God, how? Why aren't they pulling the drapes open and opening up the blinds and light? So find what works for you. Get the happy, healthy in. Get in the light, walk in the sunlight, get out and take walks, get into nature, get back to yourself. I urge you, I beg you, do this, because I get real passionate about this stuff.
It's clear, and I believe it. I'm right there with you, and then I'm going, well, I need to work through this book myself. I mean, everybody read this book now. Go get it.
I'm going to tell you something that I didn't think I would even admit, but I'm going to tell you. This book for me, apart from the fact that it was cathartic, it was a cathartic process for me as well. Since the book has published, I have been honestly, I've had 3 or 4 major life decisions put in, whether it was my romantic life or work life or every one of them in some way, shape, or form, a form of betrayal. My work life meaning a huge paycheck, love like I thought I had never lived before, and this is just in the last month. Betrayal with work, friends that were a little more biting. That I was right, like, why are you always still wearing your hair so long? You think you're still you think you're a teenager? This kind of stuff. And whereas I was, all of this would have triggered me into the nth depression degree for so long in my life. And I wrote the book, and the universe went, okay, all right, cool, ready? Because if you're going to teach it and preach it, we need you to walk the walk and talk the talk, which I'm so happy to say I have, because I stood up for what was right for me and what was my truth. And the fact that I truly do live, and I really offer it up for everyone to be a better person tomorrow than you are today, no matter what that means.
Boy, but that's the goal. Just be a better person tomorrow than you are today. If we could do that, if everybody could do that in very short order, we would greatly improve our lives, actually, full stop, and also our satisfaction with them.
Well, first of all, you owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
You just
Again, you're worth it. You're worth it. Do it. That's the starting thought. Is people don't believe they're worth.
Here's the other thing, Andrew, and then I'll shut up, I promise. But here's what I really love. This whole thing. I'm enough. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. Everybody's enough. And then you look up enough, and it says, as much as is required. Enough, by definition, means as much as is required. Now, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I know about me. And I know that I am so much more than enough.
Right.
Enough is not enough of a word to describe what I want everyone else to feel.
Yeah.
By reading my book, by reading other personal growth books, by being a better person more than you are today.
Yeah, that's a mind-blowing thought. That when have you ever wanted just the minimum that's required?
Right.
Never. That's what I want from a server in a restaurant is absolutely the minimum that's required. I want people complying to the minimum that's required for the health code not to get shut down.
Right.
No, more than
Exactly.
And you are more than enough. That's fantastic.
You are so much more than enough. We are all so much more than enough. And I want to shake it into people sometimes, but it's their process. It's their path, and they have to, it's like anything else in life. They have to come to the realization, and sometimes you won't pick up a book like mine until you've really hit rock bottom.
Right. Well, and that's making a case for people who are willing to do it the least are the people who need it the most because they haven't gotten to the place of having enough self-esteem to believe that they're worth focusing on.
And funnily enough, going back to high school, you remember, she's so conceited. She's so conceited. Those are the people that are the most, that need self-esteem the most. The other thing that I really like to leave you with is just not to betray your conscience. Live up to your best potential, big or small. Whatever the little increments that you're going for on a daily basis, live up to every one of them, but never betray your conscience.
That's so key. And so many people struggle with that one as well. Mm-hmm.
Who are you, Andrew, when no one else is in the room and nobody else is looking? Are you doing the right thing all the time? The right thing. Don't betray your conscience.
Yeah, and I to be honest, I think a lot of people don't always have a clear view of where the boundaries are with their conscience. What matters to them as far as values. They kind of do, but they haven't.
Yeah,
they haven't sat down and thought through it of really where the line is. That's what it's like. Look, I'm not willing to go beyond that. I don't feel good about that.
Yeah. And that's where the work is. And therein lies the conundrum. The work is in getting your self-esteem, getting it intact, getting it on track, and making sure that you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That is by you and by others. Again, I said, self-esteem 101 is not comparing yourself to anyone else. But, self-esteem 102 is, always doing, 102 is do something good for somebody else. Okay, that always makes us feel great. Set it and forget it kind of thing. Just do something good. So maybe self-esteem 103 is what I'm talking about. And that is always do the right thing.
Yeah. So real quick, because we're getting to the end here, but I want to give people a free preview. What are the 4 pillars of self-esteem in your opinion?
Look good. Feel good, be good, and greater good. Look good, it's subjective, as long as you can walk out the door. And by the way, don't shoot the messenger, but we're all judged by the way we look. We just are. It's just human nature. It's the way we, it's almost, it's imprinted in the DNA. I mean, we go after those that we find attractive. We want to attract those that we find attractive. So look good, whatever that means to you, is something very important. Feel good, diet, exercise, nutrition, brain health, it all works as one, and making sure that you are that you're ingesting the foods that are really nourishing your body, your mind, and your soul. Be good is your finances, your leadership, relationships, your business. Where are you with everything else that's going on in your life? So the processes, the systems, the time you're spending with others, the be good stuff. Like, I want to be a good mother. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good friend. I want to be good in business. I want to be in, whatever drives you to be, your number one for you. And then greater good, paying it forward, paying back, tithing, volunteering, and again, doing the right thing. Hold the elevator door open for somebody. I know you're in a hurry. Do it anyway. It doesn't matter. Help the lady down the stairs with the baby carriage because you can see she's struggling. Yeah. Stand up in public transportation for the pregnant woman or for the elderly. Do the right thing. These were things that I was taught as a child that I think many have forgotten these days.
Well, I liken it to, and it's the perfect way of assessing in my mind, and it's, again, maybe a judgment, but of whether somebody is a good person is whether they take the shopping cart back to the little corral at the grocery store. Like,
I feel so guilty if I don't, so I do every time.
But it's also doing the right thing for the guy. Like, why do I need to make somebody else's job more complicated, right? If they have to go through the parking lot and pull all those carts together and try and corral them, now it takes some extra time. It takes me incrementally almost no time to turn and go, there's the one, it goes there. That's the right thing to do.
It is the right thing.
Most people don't, but it just feels like the right thing to do.
And let me offer that up, if we would, the road rage thing, just let them in.
Oh.
Just let them out of a parking lot. Let them into the line. Do something kind. If you could do one little teeny weeny thing like that of kindness every day, and I hope you do more, but if you were to do that one, you're going to feel a little, really kind of, it's a little thing, but you're feeling good about yourself. That was kind. You did an act of kindness. But you're going to make someone else's day too. You're going to make somebody else. Sometimes, Andrew, honestly, it's just something as simple as a smile. It's the little things too. When I say do something good for someone, I don't think it's broad stroke. It doesn't have to be, you're saving the world. It just means do the right thing. Do something kind.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in closeout, you underline living in a state of gratitude.
Yes.
And who would you like to thank?
Oh my gosh, I'd like to thank, my mother for keeping me. Back in 1958 when I was conceived, she was just out of high school and out of wedlock. And that was not a good thing. And my mom, had to make some very quick decisions as a very young girl, coming from an Irish Catholic family where her father was one of 16 children. So she quickly became the black sheep and was, lived in quite a bit of shame for that for a while. I'd like to think that, that she is so proud of me now and the work that I've done and the work that I am doing. She realizes that what she did by keeping me was the right thing. And I said to her, Mom, why did you keep me? Why, she said, well, to be honest, she said abortion didn't really exist back then. And it was nothing more than coat hangers in a dark alley, back room somewhere. But she said, that those were our options in the day. And I honestly never thought about it. I made my bed, see what I did there? And I had to lie in it. See what I did there? And so there you go. That was that I do a lot of what I do because my mother also, got into a relationship. She did marry my father, and he was he was narcissistic. He was an alcoholic and very abusive. So in order to move forward with this man, my mother took many a whack. and so did we as children. So I do want to always live in gratitude for the fact that I am here to carry these kind of messages forward, and to thank Mom for, doing what she felt was the right thing to do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Clarissa, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's a fascinating conversation. Yeah. If you haven't checked out the book, everybody make sure to get a copy of The Self-Esteem Regime.
I want to say it's in Barnes & Noble. I'm doing the book signings around the country right now.
Okay.
So that is really exciting too, Andrew. It's not self-published. It's Rowman and Littlefield. It's on Kindle. It's on Audible. And so to be in the bookstores when bookstores are dwindling, for me was just another really crowning moment. So I'm thrilled to walk into the stores and see my book right next to Deepak Chopra and Joe Dispenza and Brene Brown. Because we're all in the C's and D's and D's.
Right.
It's just it's an extraordinary moment when I walk into Barnes & Noble and my book is there. This is my life's work.
Congratulations. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great time. And until next time, I'm Andrew Wallace, and we don't have a problem. We've got an opportunity.